Welcome to We Hope in God channel. We're going to spend some time today reflecting, really sharing some thoughts that came up during quiet time with Scripture. Our hope really is just that this meditation might be a small light for your own walk with Christ. And today, we're diving deep into some powerful words from Paul. It's all about salvation, grace, and humility.
Yes, this is such a foundational piece. Paul is incredibly precise here. It's not just spiritual encouragement, it's like theological architecture. He's laying out how grace works and, crucially, why it leaves absolutely no room for human pride.
Right. And we want to look at the structure of his argument, the context he was writing in. It really brings it to life. #1 Scripture. Okay, so let's get right to the text itself. This is our foundation for today. We're in the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, and we're focusing specifically on verses 8 and 9. I'll read it out loud. It says, "For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith. This is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast."
So concise, yet packed with meaning. Grace, faith, works.
Exactly. They're laid out so clearly. But the phrase that really jumped out, the one we want to sort of zero in on today, is that last bit, so that no one can boast.
Yes. That phrase isn't just tacked on. It feels like the whole point, doesn't it?
It does. It raises the question, why structure it this way?
Yeah.
Why is it so important for Paul that boasting is completely, utterly taken off the table?
It suggests he sees boasting, that human tendency to take credit, as a fundamental danger, like a theological failsafe he needed to build in right from the start.
Yeah, like it undermines the whole thing if we can point to ourselves even a little bit.
Precisely. #2. Reflection, context, and meaning. And to really get why this was so critical, we need to picture the scene. Paul isn't writing this from, a comfortable study. He's actually writing this letter to the Ephesians while he's imprisoned in Rome.
Wow, okay. That adds a whole other dimension. He's physically constrained, but he's building this huge theological concept about spiritual freedom.
Exactly. And think about who he's writing to. The church in Ephesus was largely made up of Gentile Christians, non-Jews.
Right, so they wouldn't have the background of the Jewish law, the traditions that for many Jews at the time were sort of tied up with righteousness.
Correct. For centuries, the relationship with God for Jewish people was deeply connected to the law, the covenant, their heritage. Gentiles didn't have that framework. So Paul's letter is doing something massive here. It's explaining how this new community, the church, made up of both Jews and Gentiles, can even exist as one body.
So he's tackling expectations from both sides then.
You could say that. He's arguing against the idea that salvation comes from keeping the law, which might have been a barrier for Gentiles. But he's also arguing against any idea that Gentiles could achieve salvation through their own moral efforts or philosophical piety, which was, a common Greco-Roman idea.
Okay, so he's essentially creating a level playing field. No inherited advantage, no earned advantage. It has to come from somewhere else entirely.
Perfectly put. It bypasses all human systems of merit.
Let's get into those core terms then.
Yeah.
Grace. We use that word a lot, but what did Paul specifically mean here? What's the technical sense?
Well, the Greek word is charis, and in this context, it really means unmerited favor. It's a gift given completely freely without any consideration of whether the recipient deserves it. It's unilateral, from God's side only.
Okay, unmerited, not earned. And that's set directly against works.
Directly. The word there is ergon, deeds, actions, efforts. Specifically, efforts undertaken to earn something, to gain status, to merit favor, to achieve righteousness in God's eyes. Paul draws a very sharp line. You receive charis, grace, through faith, or you try to achieve standing through ergon, works. He's saying you can't blend these systems. It's one or the other for salvation.
But wait a second, does saying not by works mean that, doing good things doesn't matter, like helping people, living ethically? Is Paul dismissing all that?
That's a really common question, and it's crucial. No, he's not dismissing good works themselves. He's dismissing their power to save. The moment you do a good deed thinking, this makes me right with God, or this earns me points, that's the kind of work Paul is excluding from the equation of how you are saved. Salvation is received fully as a gift through faith. Good works become the result of salvation, not the cause.
Ah, okay. So the motivation changes. It's not works for salvation, but works from salvation.
Exactly. And that connects right back to the boasting point. If everything, the initial impulse, the faith to receive it, the final result is 100% God's grace.
Then there's literally nothing left for you to claim credit for.
Not even a tiny bit. You can't stand before God or anyone else and say, well, I did my part or I tried harder. Paul shuts that door completely.
That really does level the playing field. Like you said, the most devout person and the person with the messiest past stand on the exact same ground. total dependence on the gift.
It dismantles any hierarchy based on human effort or religious performance. Hashtag tag 3. Application. Humble walk.
Okay, so let's bring this home. We've unpacked the context, the terms.
Yeah.
But this was written almost 2,000 years ago. What does this structure, this idea mean for us listening right now, living in the 21st century?
Well, think about our culture. It's so often based on performance, right? On proving your worth.
Definitely. Your job, your achievements, even social media. It's all about showcasing, about subtle or not so subtle boasting. Look what I did. Look how successful I am.
And Paul's message here is radically countercultural to that. If your fundamental standing, your eternal significance, is already secured as a pure gift, think about the energy that frees up. You're no longer on that exhausting treadmill of having to prove yourself, to earn your value.
So it shifts our identity. The church, then, isn't a collection of high achievers who got it right. It's a gathering of people who know they didn't earn it, who are walking together entirely dependent on grace.
Yes. And that leads directly to how we should live. Paul talks elsewhere about walking humbly, that humility flows directly from this understanding of grace. Our reliance shifts. It's only on the Lord, not our own strength, not our track record, not our effort.
And Paul also says, doesn't he, to make the most of the time.
Right.
So it's not passive. It's not just sitting back.
Not at all. But the motivation for using that time changes. It's not striving for acceptance. It's living out of acceptance. The effort becomes a grateful response, not a desperate performance.
So practically, what should we be actively avoiding based on this?
Well, primarily that internal drive to seek our own righteousness. That voice that compares, that keeps score, that says, I'm doing better than them, or I deserve this because I worked for it.
Yeah, that quiet internal boasting, even if we don't say it out loud.
Exactly. We have to actively resist validating ourselves based on our performance or comparing ourselves to others. The only validation that ultimately matters is the gift we've already received. And this completely changes how we interact with people. How can you look down on someone else when you know your own standing is purely based on unearned grace? You can't.
It removes the basis for judgment.
It really does. It should lead to compassion, patience, empathy. Because you see everyone, including yourself, as recipients of the same undeserved gift, or at least needing that same gift.
And failure looks different too then.
Hugely different. If your worth is based on works, failure is devastating. It means you failed. But if your worth is based on grace, failure is, well, it's a setback, maybe a learning opportunity, but it doesn't touch your core identity. That's secure.
So the goal is to let that gift, God's grace, be the defining thing, not our striving, not our successes or failures, just the gift.
That's the heart of it, allowing that grace to shape everything. Hashtag shag outro.
That really lands powerfully. So the big takeaway from digging into this text today is salvation isn't just a gift. It's designed specifically to eliminate our ego from the equation. It demands this radical humility, this complete dependence on Christ. And that frees us up, doesn't it? It redirects our energy away from self-justification and towards, well, living gratefully.
It absolutely should. And maybe here's something to chew on this week. If your ultimate standing, your salvation, is purely and entirely a gift you didn't earn, how does that actually change how you think about your time tomorrow or the effort you put into things? Are you doing it to prove something or because you're already secure?
That's a challenging thought.
And maybe one more. How does that require humility? The inability to boast about anything related to your salvation. How does that affect the very next conversation you have with someone you might usually, perhaps secretly, judge?
If you have nothing to boast about, how does that change how you see them, how you speak to them?
Exactly. Does it make more room for understanding, for patience, something to reflect on?
Definitely something to reflect on. Thank you. And may the grace we've talked about today, the grace shared through this deep dive, truly be a small light for your walk with Christ. We'll talk again next time.
Saved by grace, through faith we stand, not by strength of human hand. Every breath a gift divine, love eternal, pure, sublime. No boasting heart,